Good evening. Welcome to QUT Web News.
Good evening.
Australia's roads, rail and ports need a serious cash injection, or traffic jams will cost us $53 billion annually within 15 years. The first comprehensive audit of the nation's infrastructure warns we'll have to get used to paying higher road tolls and taxes.
The report focuses on every state, territory and capital city. Brisbane is predicted to be the third most congested city, with Western Australia tipped to top the list. If changes aren't made to roads and bridges, the audit estimates road travel times will increase by 20% in cities like Sydney and Melbourne. It states there's currently insufficient funding to address current gaps, and that's likely to be passed on to consumers and motorists.
What you'll see is a judicious mix of increased government spending and elements of user charge.
It also highlights increases in demand for public transport, doubling in some cities. The federal opposition isn't surprised.
Australia's cities are choking because of lack of rail, lack of public transport, because of Tony Abbott's irrational dislike of public transport.
A key proposal is the need for better information sharing on infrastructure performance. Safi Karaji, QUT News.
The Infrastructure Australia report revealed concerns over how Queensland will cope with future population growth. Top of the list, our already congested traffic networks.
Brisbane's population is predicted to grow by an extra 1 million people by 2031, and without a major overhaul, our roads will struggle to cope.
The fact of the matter is we are going to need more roads, we are going to need new pieces of public transport infrastructure, and we are going to have to plan and fund that growth.
As it stands, these major freeways are the most congested hotspots in southeast Queensland. In peak hour, they are at more than 90% capacity. Without more funding towards our public transport networks, people will continue to brave bumper-to-bumper traffic chaos.
Well, we know from Council's own data that traffic congestion in Brisbane is getting worse. We've seen toll projects delivered that simply haven't cut congestion.
The state opposition hopes this latest infrastructure report should pressure Labor to come up with the cash.
So it really begs the question as to whether Labor are going to fast-track their infrastructure plan, which is going to be a year in the making. What are they going to do about infrastructure as opposed to what they've been doing up to now?
And debate is likely to continue over how and who will tackle the big picture. Lewis Wiseman, QUT News.
The RSPCA estimates that 95% of dogs sold in pet shops come from puppy farms or backyard breeders. They want urgent action now to stop the practice.
The RSPCA has helped shut down 3 puppy farms, including one which tried to sell all its dogs on the internet before the farm was raided.
There were 126 dogs, and they were just crammed into cages in a shed. Condition-wise, that was probably the worst, that one out of Townsville.
Mr. Beattie says many more of these substandard breeding farms are still operating, and he wants action to track all breeders and compulsory microchipping of puppies.
If you don't know where that puppy's coming from, if you haven't seen the parents, if you haven't seen the place where it's been bred and brought up, I would suggest you don't go there.
He says councils can do more to help.
The local councils, the local government areas can basically police their own rules and regulations.
The RSPCA recommends people going to their shelter or a registered breeder to adopt their new family member.
This puppy is loved and well looked after, but many pups are still being bred in puppy farms. That's why the RSPCA is appealing to people to go online and join the campaign. Tegan Atkins, QUT News.
Treasurer Joe Hockey is in town, spruiking the budget. He's encouraging everyone to get in and have a go in the emerging Asian market.
It was, to put it in his own words, all go this morning, with Joe Hockey in town to sell the budget. He visited a cafe in St Lucia talking about family roots and small business, and playing down any suggestions from Labor that Queensland is doing it tough.
Queensland is not in recession. He has got his facts wrong. There's certainly no evidence of that from a national level, and he should be very careful about using that word.
Joe Hockey puts that down to the inexperience of a new government and says the Commonwealth is giving the state plenty of money, including $8 billion for infrastructure.
Real outcomes. And I saw Gateway Motorway North last night, and I was impressed that the work's already underway.
The Federal Treasurer also addressed a business lunch in the city. He told a room full of party supporters that he expects our national growth to continue and that our economic future is in exports to an emerging Asian middle class.
Well, that's what our budget is about empowering the engine room of innovation. Because every single big business in the world started as a small business.
The federal government has had a boost in its popularity with its latest budget. Now it wants to capitalise on that, and Joe Hockey was making the best of it in Queensland today. Sam Mortimer, QUT News.
Recreational boating in Queensland is big business worth billions of dollars. And the opening of the Gold Coast Marine Expo this weekend reinforces that.
It's called hydro flying, and it was a great way to kick off the Marine Expo. Thousands will roll up over the weekend just to dream or even buy.
I'm interested in looking at boats because we want to buy one.
My wife was taking some photos of some big ones yesterday, but I don't know how good she'll go.
The show competes with the annual Sanctuary Cove event, but boating is an $8 billion industry in Australia, so there's plenty of interest.
We want to buy some stuff for my Timmy.
You can see how a boat is made, learn to fish, and tour Australia's biggest boat building factory.
There's something here for everyone. With over 400 boats on display this weekend, take your pick from the $1 million fly bridges to your smaller tinnies.
The boating industry won't disclose the value of boats sold at the expo each year, but shows like this kickstart sales for summer. With 3 million people involved in leisure boating, thousands of new boats were sold in Queensland alone last year.
But boat shows are about people who haven't actually enjoyed boating before and come and understand and be able to touch it and feel it and experience it.
But if you don't like boats, there are classic Ferraris on display. And they're a good investment too. Sarah Dean, QUT News.
Maroons star Billy Slater has been cleared to play in next week's State of Origin clash. But with the Blues lineup unchanged, Queensland is still sweating on the availability of Justin Hodges and Greg Inglis.
It wouldn't be Origin without the annual game of injury hide and seek. Queensland coach Mal Meninga says fullback Billy Slater's shoulder won't hold him back. The custodian got stuck into a contact session this afternoon.
Trained really well by himself today, so it was part of all our warm-up, so I'm saying he's a definite starter.
But the Maroons centre pairing remains in limbo, with both Justin Hodges and Greg Inglis battling unconventional ailments. Inglis has tonsillitis, but Hodges mightn't have a leg to stand on. The Broncos captain cut his ankle in a collision with a teammate's bike on the way to training.
Yeah, I think he is a bit embarrassed, but no, mate, it's not too bad.
In contrast, the New South Wales Blues remain program perfect, a laid-back lead-up to a game that is bound to come down to the wire. Josh Bristow, QUT News.
Hawthorne and the Sydney Swans will clash this weekend in a rematch of last year's grand final. And they both have top players returning after injury or suspension.
In last year's grand final, the Hawks belted the Swans by 63 points. But this time, the Swans are the favourites, sitting comfortably at third on the ladder.
It'll be a real scrap early in the contest, and it's really who can maintain that endeavour for the whole of the 4 quarters.
But Hawthorne's coach hopes his defenders can shut down Swans forwards Kurt Tippett and Buddy Franklin.
That's obviously a formidable part of the Sydney game, their potency up forward, and it's timely with Lakey coming in that we've got now 3 guys that can play on those type of players up forward for them.
Meanwhile, 2 of Geelong's top players are returning after injury for tonight's match against the Blues. Anna Groan, QUT News.
Time now for a look at the weather. Around the southeast today, Brisbane reached 20 degrees, 21 for the Gold and sunny coasts, and it was 11 overnight in Ipswich. Looking interstate tomorrow, a shower or 2 for Sydney, 17 the top. Rug up in Canberra, just 1 degree overnight. Partly cloudy for the southern capitals, a possible shower for Perth, 32 and sunny in Darwin. The forecast for Queensland and 26 in Mount Isa, sunny in Cairns and Townsville, a possible late shower for Mackay, and partly cloudy in Bundy, 23 the top. and Longreach drops to 9 overnight. The 3-day outlook for Brisbane. There's a possible shower for Saturday, also one on Sunday morning. We can expect a top of 22 across the weekend. And a partly cloudy 23 for Monday's return to work. That brings you up to date with the weather.
That's all the web news we have for tonight and for this semester.
We'll be back next semester with more QUT news.
On behalf of the entire news team, good night.
Good night.